Hey guys, we're going to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about fifth wheels. A fifth wheel is kind of the premium, ultra big camper, if you will, to use that term loosely. Fifth wheels they come equipped with many different types of leveling systems. First, we're going to talk about your landing gear. This is your landing gear. This is what you're going to use when you hook and unhook. These do have several problems. They usually break them whenever they're trying to unhook them by putting too much load on there. But there's all different kind of flavors of those. And these are electric. Some of them will be hydraulic. We'll hit that next. Fifth wheels, propane doors are right here. This is your basic storage access. They call this the garage. So right there, it's located underneath the neck. Here we also have our awning. These are our awning arms. People are going to experience a lot of problems out of awnings. If they leave them out in high winds, they can break this. The motors, which are always located on the right-hand side, they sometimes lock up, just depending on how they put together. Sometimes they won't work because they haven't been assembled correctly at the factory. Awning fabric is the next thing we'll talk about real quick. Awning fabrics, if they're left out, they're bad about getting torn. Any time that you have to deal with an awning fabric, when it is let out on the motor side, there should be an ID tag. You'll need that for any type of warranty information or just to identify which flavor of awning fabric that you have.
So Chuck, one thing real quick. All the awnings that we carry are going to be pretty well the same, whether it's a fifth wheel or whether it's a travel trailer, correct?
Absolutely. If it's a travel trailer towable, or whether it's a fifth wheel, they're all going to be the same. They'll either be manual or electric. Most of the newer ones are all going to be electric. You do see a manual one every now and again, which we'll talk about shortly whenever we've got one right over here. But just about all of them are going to be the same. They all have an LED light strip. Those are commonplace problems also. That could be in the wiring or just in the LED strip itself. With that being said, of course, the electrics, push of a button. We'll talk more about the manuals when we get to it. Moving right along, most of your fifth wheels are going to come with premium steps. Now, these are actually the old style foldables. A lot of the new ones are going to have a set that you actually open the door and flip up. And that's also coming into play on a lot of our towables too, which you'll see later on down in. This is your slide. Usually fifth wheels, they come with 2 to 3 slides. Like I said, they're the big boy of the camping world. This one is actually a rack and pinion style, which if you look underneath, you'll see a rack and pinion. There's your rack right there to your left. And inside is the pinion gear and a motor. Likewise, 90% of the time, the motor is going to be located on the right side. There's many parts to a slide. This is your fascia right here. We deal with fascias quite a bit in the industry as far as anything from measuring from a slide out awning to repairs. A lot of people don't know what this is. This guy right here is your vents for your overhead range vent. We have refrigerator accesses right here and vents. Most of the time they only have one. This one has 2 because it is located in the slide, so it has the vent there. Most time
Chuck, one thing we need to talk about, the reason those are vented is because these have gas. So most of our campers are going to the 12 volt DC. So they won't have these vents. Only the gas electric ones will have the vents.
That's correct. And like you said, they're gas, and the reason they're vented is because of heat. They actually work off of absorption refrigeration, which is different than a Freon-based system. They're heating the chemical mixture inside to produce a chemical reaction to pull the heat out. It's not like your household refrigerator at home where it actually blows cold air in. But you're exactly right. That is why they are vented. And as we go on, we'll see a 12-volt fridge, and you'll notice I'll point out that it does not have any vents because it's all a self-contained compressor system. But with all that being said, a lot of times in slides, you'll find your outdoor kitchens and all that good stuff. We do deal a lot of times with this bottom molding. These are very specific. We can get these from several different vendors. However, we need to color code match, or we can also have these painted. Moving right along.
Hey Chuck, while we're here, let's talk about these fender skirts.
Sure.
We replace a lot of fender skirts.
Absolutely. It's very common. These are plastic. Anytime that they've set out in the sun, they get a little bit of age on them. Just like any type of plastic, they'll go ahead and dry rot. And you'll get a lot of cracking in here. Or there again, when they've gotten brittle from the sun, just the lightest touch you can kind of crack on or crack one. And you also get any time that they've actually ran it into something, which is quite common, they usually tear the far out of these too. These are available through a lot of our different vendors, and they're pretty easy. You'll just always want to measure the full width of that guy to be able to order that one correctly. Moving right along on our fifth wheel, we're going to come to the back cap. Now, of course, just like with the front cap, the back cap has many different important parts. This one actually has a power plug located right here. A lot of our newer campers don't have the plugs built into them with the extension cord. This one has a separate cord. Now, these are 50 amps. You can always tell if you look, there will be two legs that have hooks on them, and that will quickly and easily identify a 50 amp, whereas a 30 only has one.
And it also says it right there on that little tag right above it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have several different controls on the back, whether it's landing gears or anything like that. And of course, a lot of people have bicycle racks and everything that they use with the hitches on these. A lot of different accessories can be added. Note up top, we're already prepped. All of our stuff that comes in nowadays is just about prepped for backup cameras. Backup cameras are an important accessory we should always recommend to the customer because it's going to take care of their camper whenever they're backing up and nobody's there to spot them. Also, windows. Let's talk about windows real quick. We have a lot of people come in with busted windows. Windows can bust from several different things. Of course, everything from mowing the yard with a rock to if the camper is insulated well enough, which most of them are, and we have a large temperature differential, you can actually have one of these windows blow out. That's why when we talk a little bit about winterization and everything, we'll talk about the importance of venting our camper. But moving right along, you'll see this one has another slide on this side. Same concept. Basically, this one doesn't have any ports or anything like that or vents, but we do have some windows, and there again, it is a rack and pinion style slide. Anytime you're dealing with slides, just like any other part of the camper, it's important to inspect these termination seals. Somewhere on this camper, just like any camper, there's a sticker that says every 90 days you should check and seal your terminations. This is one of the key places, as well as all down the camper and on the cap terminations also. Moving right along here, a lot of people ask what these are. These on the side are actually helped to design to take our wiper seal, this is a wiper seal right here, and flip it in and out depending on the direction that we've gone. Basically, the wiper seal is there to keep moisture out. This is a camper and a slide out. So with a slide out, we have a hole that we're moving a room in and out of, and basically the wiper seal just closes it all up, keeps moisture out of it. This is an important little appliance right here. This is our furnace. One big thing that we have with furnaces is dirt daubers. We always recommend to our customers that they get dauber screens. On average, it costs about $300 to do a clean out and repair on a furnace. There's several different flavors, but this will be the vent. Always tell people this guy's going to get hot when it's in use, so keep the kiddos away, most definitely.
The way I always identify it is it usually has two holes, and where a hot water heater right beside it just has one screen. So you can just easily identify with a glance that that's a furnace, not a hot water heater.
Also, like Landon was saying, the hot water heaters, they've got a door that will actually flip down. And as you can see the internal components. We have our gas valve. We've actually got our electric element right here. Most electrics, 99% of them have a push button right here to turn them off and on. Some do have a secondary control inside the coach, but 9 times out of 10, it'll just be this. These are our thermostats. Always tell the customer immediately if they're showing any signs of problem with their water heater to make sure that those are pushed in. Those work off of what's called a thermoeucalyptic material, much like a breaker in a house. Anytime that the temperature gets too hot and it needs to turn off, it melts and breaks the circuit. When it cools, it reforms and completes the circuit. And that's both, you have an ECO, which is emergency cutoff for your gas, and then you have a normal CO for your cutoff for electric. Closing that little rascal back up. There again,
hey Chuck, before we move on, can we get these Blackwater tanks?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was looking for these. So this is our wastewater system, exit right here. If you look there, once I undo that cap, so we have a gray valve for our gray water, like sinks and our shower and stuff like that, and then we have a black valve for our black tank. Just like in household items, black water is your commode water. One thing you can always recommend is to drain your black water into your hose first and chase it with your gray water. It gets all the fun tidbits out of there, and it also just kind of cleans everything up for you. There could be several different locations, and depending on the size of the coach, there may be 2 bathrooms. So you may have 2 black tanks, you may have 2 to 3 gray tanks, depending on if it's got a bathroom in the back and a kitchen tank, which is known as the galley. But right here is going to be basically where you dump your waste. And always, anytime you're going down the road, you want to make sure that your cap's on. That way you don't have any problems with anybody that's unhappy about waste driplets or anything like that getting on the ground. It's always good to be mindful of stuff like that. So moving right along into our storage bay here, this is what I like to call the control center of the camper.
Now this is unique to fifth wheels only.
Absolutely, absolutely. Every now and again you'll get a towable that has something similar to this, but like Landon said, this is pretty well going to be unique to fifth wheels only. You have your outdoor shower. In this case, a lot of the newer ones are coming with hoses and spray nozzles. You have your cable and satellite input jacks in case the customer's at a campground where they offer cable, or they have a tailgater system or something like that they can plug in. Usually, always, you'll find at least one GFCI receptacle outside. This one has one on the other side and in your command center. Your city water connection, let's talk about that real quick. On any camper, whether it's an RV, a towable, anything, you always want to use a water pressure regulator. That rates our water pressure at 40 PSI, which is what your camper is designed for. A lot of state parks have much higher than that. If you do not use one, you will find leaks, I assure you. With that being said, we also have a neat feature on this one, and this is getting more and more common on all campers. This is a black tank flush. If you read the sticker, it talks a little bit about making sure that the full away termination valve is open. Basically, the full away termination valve is your black tank valve. It needs to be open. If not, whenever you put your water pressure regulator and your hose on here, it's basically got jets built into the tank to wash the little sensors off in there that give us a reading inside on our internal command center that lets us know our water levels in our tanks. They work off of grounding, and if we have contamination on these probes, basically what's going to happen is we're going to get a false reading, and that's what this black tank flush is designed to eliminate. The jets spray the water out on the probes and wash it off. But with that being said, if our black tank valve isn't open, we're going to overpressure, and we're actually going to shoot water back up through the commode and get all kinds of fun stuff all inside. We don't want to do that. But that's another feature that's getting more and more common on both styles of campers. Pretty well. If we had a fifth wheel with basically a leveling system, you would most of the time find a control pad in here on this side.
What we'll do is we'll go find that one here in just a second.
Sure. Either way, with all that being said, that's basically your command center on your base fifth wheel models. Once again, your propane doors.
Hey Chuck, one thing I see here that this is unique on is it has a Swintech slide system right there.
Absolutely.
As well as a rack and pinion slide system right there, so people can know the difference between a rack and pinion
and a Swintech.
Two totally different types of slide motor systems.
They're always given away by these racks on the side. It is a style of rack and pinion, but there again, like Landon said, it is a Swintech. Our motors are actually mounted in our walls here. With that being said, there again we have our D seals right here. These are called D seals. You'll find these on both styles of camper. And then our wiper seals right here. So D-seal and wiper seal, that's another common term you'll hear thrown around there. Real quick on our propane, I do want to show you, we have our regulator right here. Regulators commonly go out. We also have our hose here, and they leak quite often. So as they get a little age on them, that's a part that we can always go to if we find a gas leak. Normally that's where it'll be coming from, either the regulator or the gas line. Moving right along, we'll get underneath the neck real quick, just to kind of show you what you got. This is where you're going to have your batteries. So basically we can see we've got our batteries right here. A lot of times on bigger fifth wheels, you'll find a generator in here also. They do sometimes go in different compartments, but for the most part, they go in here. And as we were talking about our landing gear earlier, this one is an electric system. You can see our motor right there with our gearbox that controls both through this shaft. So pretty basic rundown there. Like I said, the fifth wheels are kind of a premium, and this is kind of an entry-level fifth wheel to medium. So it's got quite a lot of features. But as you move on up to some of the bigger toy hauler fifth wheels and stuff like that, the options are just really endless. But we're going to get you a good feeling for those, most definitely.
Hey Chuck, it's got a few neat things in here that we can talk about. Can you show me about what these breakers are here and tell us what about those?
Absolutely. If you notice right here, we've got a series of 12-volt breakers. Those 12-volt breakers are basically going to control any voltage, that whether it comes from your converter, which takes 120 and makes 12 volts out of it, to coming off of your battery. So if one of those goes out, it could take out anything from your jacks to your slide system, anything like that. So that's another common serviceable item is these 12-volt breakers. Let me pop one of these off just so you can kind of see what one of those look like. Real neat little guys. Most of them are either going to be 30 amp or 50 amp, just so that you're aware of that. Real quick, while we're also in here, we have our tools right here. So this one right here is designed for our jacks. There's going to be an access over there that we can, if say that breaker goes out down the road and we're miles from anywhere, we're going to be able to manually crank these landing gear legs up and down. Likewise, right here, we have our slide tool. Let's say there again, our breaker goes out, we're miles from anywhere, and we need to get that slide in. This tool, you can go underneath the camper and actually hook onto your gearbox and crank the slide in.
And every camper comes with manual stuff.
Absolutely. Most definitely.
What's this up here, Chuck?
Right up here, this is actually the brain box to your Schwintek slide system. Real interesting location for it. The brain box is what's going to tell us our alarm codes if we're having any issues out of the slide. It'll tell us if we have a short in a wire, which is a real common problem, or anything down to low voltage or anything like that. But the majority of your customers won't ever notice that. But if they do, that definitely makes them a valuable troubleshooting tool as well. Most definitely.
Now, can you tell me, going back to the basics here, Chuck, why is this called a fifth wheel?
Basically, this is called a fifth wheel because of the type of hitch that we're going to be pulling this with. This is actually called a kingpin right here. It's the business end of our fifth wheel hitch. This is what actually goes into our fifth wheel hitch and locks down and allows us to pull us down the road. We have our pin box up here. There's a lot of aftermarket pin boxes that you can get. There's the MORryde system. Lippert has a real nice one out there. But basically, this is going to be the muscle behind your towing apparatus. This is why they're called fifth wheels, because of the type of hitch that they have. Most definitely.
Very good. Let's talk about that breakaway.
Sure,
and just go to the basics on hooking this up to your truck to get brakes, lights, and everything else for some people who might not have any idea about that.
Sure. So right here, real quick, I'm going to unwind this so we can talk about this.
Now, fifth wheels and travel trailers
and
alike have these.
Any camper is going to have these. Basically, what goes on, this needs to be hooked up separately from anything else on your camper securely with a pin. Basically, what happens if our hitch was to fail, and on a towable, if our hitch and our chains were to fail, basically this little guy is going to pop right out of there, and it's going to automatically lock up our brakes on this camper. So if we're going 70 miles per hour down the road and this thing comes off of our truck or our tow vehicle, it's going to lock those brakes up and keep it from barreling down the road and hitting something.
Or somebody.
Exactly. And a good way to store these, a lot of people don't know how to store these, and whenever they go to hook up, which is what I want to talk about next, they end up damaging these. Just take and wrap that little guy up right there, and then you're going to take and twist it in and out twice. And that is going to keep it up and out of the way and properly stored.
Why don't you go ahead and pull that 7-way out and talk about it?
Absolutely. So this is our 7-way plug. This is very common, whether it's an RV or just a trailer in general. This is designed to both power brakes, lights, and there is a charging circuit off of here. As long as the charging fuse in your tow vehicle is hooked up and your wiring is correct, you're going to put a maintenance charge on your camper's batteries. Also, you will be able to, if your camper battery is dead, you will be able to start your tow vehicle and power and open any slides or any jacks or anything like that.
Basically turn on any lights.
Anything 12 volt.
Pull out your awning.
Anything you need to do, you'll be able to do with this. You always want to make sure that this is firmly plugged in. And you notice it's really shiny right there. That's because it's got electric grease on it. Dielectric grease is the proper terminology. But this is something we want to pay attention to. a lot of times these fins in here get corroded and they won't allow for a proper connection, which causes lights not to work, your charging circuit, whole number of things. Brakes, especially on one this big. Anytime a customer gets a camper, period, we need to recommend that they have a brake control, which this actually works with your brake control on your tow vehicle. But we'll need to recommend a brake control, because if not, sometimes they can get themselves into some hairy situations and not be able to properly stop or adjust going down the road. This also plays into that, because that's what your brake voltage comes through to. So with that being said, also a lot of people aren't aware of properly storing their 7-way on a fifth wheel. What I'd like to do there is just real quick, these wrap right up, and in your king box or your pin box here, you'll be able to just tuck it right up and in. There's always a place to tuck it, and there again, until you're ready to plug it in. If you're hooking up, that keeps it up and out of the way. Whenever you're hooking up, the first thing you need to do is familiarize yourself with your hitch. But in this case, what I like to do, let's pretend we know our hitch. We want to make sure our hitch is unlocked, make sure our tailgate is down. We want this to be just a shot lower than the level height of our hitch. That way we actually have to kind of pick it up a little bit. That ensures that we get a good connection. Whenever we slide in and back into this, as soon as it hits, most fifth wheel hitches will automatically lock. However, some will not. So always get out of the truck and double check to make sure that your pin is locked in behind this kingpin on your hitch. That's what this little cut right here is for. This notch is for our pin to lock on our hitch. With that being said, once we've done that, and if you need to, you can adjust. Right over here is the controls for the landing control. You can adjust your height with that. Once we're done, I always recommend you fully retract your jacks. These will travel from here all the way up, and then we also have a quick release right here, a spring-loaded release. You can see the holes in that leg. It basically lets you automatically drop to the ground if you need to. With that being said, that's pretty well just on a basic fifth wheel, and we'll get you into some bigger fifth wheels.
We'll go over here and shoot some more real quick.
Sure.